Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and this is part 2 of St. Peter's Alstonefield, the outside. Now, as we saw on the inside, this is a church that was largely rebuilt in the 14th century. We're here on the south side, but this is a church that's back to front in the sense that the main entrance is on the north side. On this side it faces away from the village, and so anyone approaching the church comes from the north side. So the north side is actually somewhat fancy. It was, well, the north aisle was rebuilt in the 15th century, but here we have 14th century aisle, 15th century clerestory, and the 16th century tower. And then behind me there is the chancel, which has its origins in the 13th century. It is, as you can see, one of these big aisled buildings. It's got a porch on this side, even though this was not the main entrance. Nevertheless, particularly in the Middle Ages, it would have been the main entrance for some people. Now the porch is something much more important than just a spare porch. It is the toilet, which is, as I say, a very important thing. So let's have a look around the outside. We've got a wonderful graveyard here with many historic monuments, many historic gravestones. So without further ado, let's explore. I apologise for the wind sound. It's windy up here. We're in the middle of the moorlands. And so here we are. We start at the south-east corner. There is that chancel. Now, it was partially rebuilt in the 16th century, but those lancet windows are pure 13th century, and that door, that little priest's door down there. The porch has a stone roof. Those aren't stone roofing slabs, that is, or slates or anything like that. Those are just stones. That's a solid roof there. The rest of the roof is all replaced in the 19th century. It would have originally been, I think, well, it would have originally been stone slabs, but it's been replaced with lighter slates. No doubt because of the strain the stone slabs would have put upon the original roof structures. There's a very large graveyard. It's quite a significant village. It's Alstonefield. It's not one of your tiny little places. And you have your typical gravestones here. Now I think the light is not quite right to see what's carved on them, but you can see these are what early 19th century, early to mid 19th century. Here we have the grandest of all the memorials, and as you can see they come in all shapes and sizes, from your standard stones to your table tombs. And the thing about the table tomb, of course, is that it's a nice solid lump of masonry that would make it difficult for anyone to steal the body should they so wish. The chancel east wall has been rebuilt in the 16th century. In fact, there's a date on it, 1590, so we know when it was rebuilt, and that's about the same time that the tower is built. And you can see a certain amount of decorative use of different coloured stone, which is always nice. Yes, LB 1590. Now this is over a family vault. I think it's the hills, I could be wrong. It is quite eroded. The stone is difficult to read. But you have this woman weeping on a broken column. And of course the broken column is a sign of a life cut short. You'll find sometimes people, particularly from fundamentalist backgrounds, think, oh, it must be Freemasons. The response is no, it's an ancient Roman symbol. James Hambleton of this village, who died January the 9th, 1868, in the 69th year of his age. The righteous shall be in everlasting remembrance. Again, remember, we have an evangelical ministry here. Here we have a couple of big memorials for the Whites. The surroundings here are quite spectacular. These fields with their dry stone walls running up the hills. The north side of the church, as I say, the north side, because it's the one that faces the village, is the fancier one, and it had this 16th century rebuild of the aisle. I do hope we're not getting too much wind noise on the microphone. It's hard to avoid when it's windy, really. And here we have this wonderful checkerboard effect on the building. This is the 15th century work. You'll notice that the graves here are more recent. Again, this is because of the fact that historically, for various reasons, the south side was the normal place for burial. But this would have been for burial. Somewhere in this graveyard is the oldest known gravestone in the country, but I'm not sure where it is. There's a lovely checkerboard pattern here. Here we have the old churchyard cross, or the bottom part thereof. It's quite typical to find them socketed like this in stone, and this is of course an Anglo-Saxon cross. Look at that carving on the cross. And again we have nice lancet, 13th century lancet in the chancel. The porch is Victorian, but it imitates the checkerboard work of the 15th century nave, the 15th century aisle rather, which is very good. Next door is the old vicarage, now a private house, as so many of these are. In the porch we have the remains of some old gravestones. You can just see here this one there, that there, and that one there, and a rather nice 15th century doorway, and actually that looks like the original door, studded. And so we move around this old farmhouse up there that's being slowly restored. It was empty for years, that one. Very nice building. It looks like its origins are 16th, 17th century. There would have been an older vicarage here, but this was rebuilt, of course, in the Georgian era. And so we slowly move around. We have here again, this is a 16th century church, and here's the 16th century tower, and here we have the doorway. Much eroded, it is quite exposed here, and it doesn't take a lot in terms of rain. And here is the ancient graveyard. Again, I apologise for the wind noise, I can't do a lot about it because it's windy out here, and we're in a rather exposed spot. And we have this wonderful collection of memorials of all kinds of dates and ages and all kinds of styles. There in the middle we have a sundial. Now, is that on the site of an older, or a later, in fact, in terms of the one on the side, is that on the site of the old churchyard cross? It might be. That certainly is a possibility. Here, now, what do we have here? Now, this is the oldest gravestone in the country. I found it, and date is April 1518. There is no older gravestone in the whole of England. The name isn't mentioned. It's a woman named Mary, as of course so many were because of the devotion to the Virgin Mary. And here we are, we have our very nice 14th century aisle here. You'll notice that the clerestory does have this checkerboard work. Obviously the aisle, being earlier, doesn't. And the tower was rebuilt in the 16th century because basically it fell down. Always an occupational hazard with church towers. Particularly here, you're exposed to the wind, and any mistake in building didn't have the kind of scientific engineering techniques we have. It was very much done by eye and instinct. and sometimes mistakes were made. And you've got, see, these big memorials. Now, who is this to? Can we tell? In memory of Ruth, wife of Ralph. I can't see what his name was, but here, Bennett, Ralph Bennett. And this is, again, early 19th century. So, more of these little gravestones, and these are the older ones. As in the Middle Ages, you wouldn't really have gravestones as such. As this one has a 17th century date. And there's that porch again, very useful. You can see there's a carved stone stuck in the front of it. I suspect that's an older piece of carving that was just carried over. It looks like it was a head originally, but again, much eroded. Do you imagine the generations, you can see here the generations who have been laid to rest here in this churchyard. This is rather interesting because you've got a great gap at the bottom, and that's generally it's because they'd hoped that other members of the family would then be commemorated, and they weren't. These things happen. So there we are. This is outside at Alstonefield. It is very, very windy here. I do hope that there's some decent audio on this. So I shall just say a few words in conclusion. And so there we have it, Alstonefield outside. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's a bit blustery out here at the moment, so I shall just sign off, and may God bless you and keep you. And thank you for watching.